Hello, and thanks for watching this third video on the 1.5 box. In video 1, we shared how the idea of the 1.5 box came about. People shared being nervous about going to phase 2 for fear of gaining weight, and with it, became obvious that we needed an additional structure in phase 2 that allowed for more variety than the phase 1 box, while still providing clear limits around higher calorie foods to help prevent weight gain. On that point, just real quick here, a lot of our work in phase 2 is focused on preventing weight gain. And to do that, you have to balance your calories. Everyone eats over their calorie budget from time to time. That's life. So to offset those higher calorie days, you need to be able to pull off lower calorie days. And when the calories are really high, because again, it happens, then you really need to be able to pull off lower calorie days. And the more of a system that you have for doing that, the better. Enter the 1.5 box. A system for building more low-calorie days into your phase 2 experience. Then in video 2, we reviewed the process of determining what goes in your 1.5 box by reviewing 4 guidelines. These guidelines provide a framework for how to think about this, your approach essentially for building your 1.5 box. But these guidelines are just that, guidelines. And while they really help to direct your thinking, they don't provide the specific foods that you'll want to include in your 1.5 box. And that's what we're going to cover here. So let's start. First, looking at this graphic, notice how the phase 1 box fits inside the 1.5 box. I'm calling your attention to this because when developing this, we needed to keep reminding ourselves that a lot of the food strategies in the 1.5 box are actually strategies that you are already practicing in phase 1. If you think about it, the phase 1 box helped you to aggressively manage your calories with very few decisions and without eating less food. And it produced very tight calorie management, thus weight loss. So as part of managing your calories in phase 2, remember we need low calorie days to offset the high calorie days. Why would you leave your best calorie management strategies behind? You wouldn't. They're still your best strategies for pulling off low calorie days. And that's what we're talking about when you see the phase 1 box inside the 1.5 box. Keeping up your favorite shake and entree routines, keeping up your fruits and vegetables, and then adding new foods from there. You could essentially describe building your 1.5 box as building out your phase 1 box with more variety and more layers over time. Okay, let's now move past the conceptual level and get into the specific food groups that we'll be working with. The starting point for this is clear, the Dietary Guidelines for Americans through the year 2025. These are science-based, and they're essentially a blueprint for the healthiest diet that you can eat. And these recommendations are very consistent with recommendations for healthy eating from different countries all over the world, because again, they're based on evidence. There's no American science and there's no European science, there's just science. And if we were to just take a minute to look at these different guidelines, historically, almost every country used some version of the food guide pyramid. And at the base, you would see plant-based foods, fruits and vegetables, of course, and then grains with a real emphasis on whole grains. This was then followed by measured portions of lean proteins, some low-fat dairy, and then a modest portion of healthy fats. But the base is always plant-based, fruits and vegetables, followed by whole grains. So, just to reinforce the consistency here, let's take a quick tour of these different food guide pyramids. Starting with Canada, where we see fruits and vegetables at the base, followed by whole grains, then dairy and lean proteins. Jump across to Europe now, starting with Switzerland. We see at the base, their first food recommendation is fruits and vegetables, followed by whole grains, then lean proteins. How about France? Again, fruits, veggies, whole grains, lean protein, and dairy. And it's the same in Austria. Veggies and fruits first, and the remaining foods are the same. All right, let's now jump down to Australia for a minute. Here we have a fancy 3D pyramid with the base of, you guessed it, fruits and vegetables, then whole grains, and lean proteins. Come back up to Finland, and we start once again with a vegetable fruit base on the pyramid. Jump over to Ireland now, same thing again. Though I have to admit, I was kind of expecting this. At least we have the good sense to keep the fruits and vegetables and whole grains in there. Now, how about Greece? And how about Spain? You got it. Plant-based foods at the base. And last, we've got Germany. Come on, Germany. We get it. German engineering, detail and precision and all that. Let's not show off too much here. Look closely and you see the recommendations are the same. In fact, any food guidelines to promote health from anywhere across the globe are going to start with, one last time, plant-based foods, fruits and vegetables, followed by whole grains, followed then by lean proteins and or low-fat dairy. These are the building blocks of a very healthy diet. And when people shift from the far less healthy diets of today to a dietary pattern following these guidelines, health improves dramatically. To that point, how effective are current dietary guidelines for cardiovascular disease prevention? And that's among the many other health benefits that come from practicing the skills for a healthy diet. Okay, so now back to the specifics about what goes in your 1.5 box. Needless to say, the whole point of that review of the food guide pyramids was to hammer home that you've got to keep up your fruits and vegetables. And if you're not eating at least 35 full cup servings a week, you may want to target this behavior. They're the healthiest foods you can eat, and they're central to helping you manage your weight over time. Now, we're going to talk about whole grains more in a minute, but first, let's discuss lean proteins. Protein is essential for health because it plays a unique role in supporting the growth and repair of your body's tissues, including recovery from injury and from exercise. And we stress lean proteins to keep the calories low, because the fact is, many popular proteins today have a lot of calories. But maybe the most important part of your 1.5 as it relates to lean proteins is that they add flavor. Lots of flavor and variety to your diet. You could look at lean proteins as the superstar of your meals. Sure, your fruits and vegetables are important. We've covered that. But there's a different kind of excitement when you discover your favorite lean proteins and your favorite preparation methods for those lean proteins. Now, ultimately, your goal is to identify your top lean proteins, say your top 5 or 6 or so. The lean proteins you enjoy the most, the preparation strategies that are most satisfying, and the fruit and vegetable combinations that pair with them the best. And this will be a process of trying different things to see what works best for you and what doesn't. So, just to give you a sense of this, here are my top lean proteins. Starting with premium Italian tuna in olive oil for a big hit of flavor, but with the calories always measured. Just 1 can flavor 3 servings of vegetables, 4, maybe even 5, including my favorite, broccoli. Okay, next, eggs. Eggs are not just for breakfast anymore. And at 60 calories an egg, the brand I get, I like them over easy and on top of my veggies for, again, tons of flavor, a good hit of protein, but all for only 180 calories. That's a win. Next, on some days, I'll put lean ground turkey, 99% fat-free, in a non-stick pan, break it up while it's frying, and season it with a little light soy sauce. And as always, pair it with lots and lots of veggies. Then we've got veggie burgers. My brand is Morningstar Veggie Burger or Black Bean Burger, and I'll go head-to-head with you with whatever your favorite veggie burger is. To me, Morningstars are the bomb. Now next, we've got fish. All kinds of fish. So low in calories, so quick to prepare, either in the air fryer or on the grill. And for me, almost always seasoned with Cajun seasoning, blackened. Or you'll have to figure out what your top spices are to go along with your favorite proteins. That's part of the process. And a final lean protein in my 1.5 box is non-fat, sugar-free Greek yogurt with fruit or with the HMR 70 plus chocolate mixed in for a high protein snack or dessert. So these are my favorites, and they give me enough variety that I'm not looking for other higher calorie proteins when I'm pulling off a day in the 1.5 box. So you'll want to focus on lean proteins first as you're building your 1.5 box. And this is, again, of course, on top of, as I said before, your favorite phase 1 food strategies, shakes, entrees, and lots of fruits and vegetables. Okay, the next food category that you'll want to explore, and which was very well represented in those dietary guidelines from across the globe, is measured portions of whole grains. Now, you know whole grains are good for you, but the average person has no idea just how healthy these foods are. These are plant-based foods, and as such, they're packed with essential vitamins and nutrients, phytochemicals, and fiber, all of which supports the healthy functioning of your body. I'll just share one quick study here to make this point, but it's a big one. It's a summary of 45 different studies on whole grains, and it shows how a higher intake reduces risk of cancer, stroke, and heart attack. Just look at the drops in risk for the first 1 to 2 servings that you eat. Whole grains protect your health, and you don't have to eat that many of them to make a difference. And since people can be a bit nervous about grains based on past experience, I'd like to introduce a term here: dosing your diet with whole grains. Translated, that means being very careful when you're measuring these foods and using small portions to dose your diet with health, with flavor, and with different textures. You get all of those from whole grains, all of which adds to your experience, your enjoyment when you're eating. An example of this might be having 1 to 2 pieces of 60 calorie or less per slice bread or toast, whole wheat of course, with your meal. Or always making sure that you have 2 or 3 cups of fruits and vegetables on your plate compared to a cup of brown rice or whole wheat pasta. Dosing your diet with whole grains means being precise with your measures as you incorporate these incredibly healthy foods into your meals and snacks. Now, another one of my strategies is to boil a pound of whole grain pasta at the start of the week, measure it out sparingly into some of my meals during the week. Okay, so we've covered lean proteins and whole grains. These are 2 huge categories in your 1.5 box, but make sure you go slow when you're adding these. The next category is actually quick: low-fat dairy. You know, it's interesting. While you've got dairy in virtually all the dietary guidelines that we looked at, to be honest, there are not that many items in this category. As part of a healthy eating pattern, here are the foods from our dietary guidelines list for dairy: fat-free and low-fat 1% or skim milk, yogurt, which you could count as a protein, cottage cheese, and reduced fat cheese. And for people who prefer dairy alternatives, fortified soy beverages like soy milk or soy yogurt could be included in there. That's it really, not a huge list. And by the way, if you're continuing to use shakes, you may already have this category of dairy pretty well covered. Okay, the last category is healthy fats. Now, let's make sure to insert a word of caution here. Obviously, the calories can really add up, even with healthy fats, because the reality is all fats have a lot of calories. Probably the best comparison I've seen, and I'll thank Barbara, one of our members, for this, is 1 little old level tablespoon of olive oil at 120 calories is the same calories as a high volume blended shake. The obvious difference being you will never say, "Oops, I wasn't being careful, I accidentally drank an extra shake or extra shakes." That doesn't tend to happen, when in fact you may end up saying exactly that with healthy fats. Oops on the olive oil, oops on the nuts. So much for measured portions. So here, again, we proceed with caution. Okay, that now brings us to our final point about our dietary guidelines and what should be on the short list of foods in your 1.5 box. As healthy as the dietary guidelines are, they were not constructed to be a weight loss plan, nor were they constructed to be a weight management plan. Their purpose is to help us better protect our health. So for our purposes, weight management, we have to adapt them to support tighter calorie management. And as we covered before, nothing does this better than adding in meal replacements or keeping up meal replacements, keeping shakes in your diet in their various forms, along with continuing to strategically use portion-controlled entrees to manage your calories. It's just so important to keep practicing phase 1 behaviors, especially as you're introducing new foods into your 1.5 box. Your phase 1 behaviors really are your safety net. Okay, we're now at the end of this video, and it's time to start building your 1.5 box. And in our final video in this series, I'm going to take you through me doing a full day in my 1.5 box. You're going to see it'll be filled with my favorite low-calorie foods. You'll also see that it'll give me enough volume to not be hungry and enough food satisfaction to help me avoid the foods that I know would lead to more calories than I want and eventually weight gain. And that really is the whole goal of a day in the 1.5 box, to avoid weight gain foods while still enjoying some freedom to enjoy more variety with all of your meals and your snacks. So Stay tuned for that video, and thanks for watching this one.